Figure 7.13, PassArray.java. The purpose of this example is to show you the difference between passing an individual array element into a method versus passing the name of an array to a method. It turns out because when you have an array variable in Java, it's actually a reference to an array object, that you're passing your array into a method in a manner that allows the array to be modified by the called method. So we want to demonstrate that and then show you separately that when you pass individual array elements, those are not passed in a way that you can modify them. So for the purpose of this example, we have a class called PassArray that contains a static main method. And just before we get into the details of this, I'd like to show you that the other methods in this class, one called ModifyArray and one called ModifyElement, are also static methods. When you have multiple static methods in your class, each static method is able to call the other static methods directly without the need to manipulate an object of the class. So in main here, we begin by declaring the integer array called array and initializing it with the 5 elements from 1 to 5. And now we're going to demonstrate to start out the ability to modify an array that you pass into a method. So we print out first that we're going to show you the effects of passing a reference to an entire array. We then show you what the original array values are, and we're using an enhanced for statement here to iterate through all of the elements in an array, and one at a time we assign them to the variable called value, and then we display the value. After doing that, we invoke the ModifyArray method, and we pass it the name of the array as an argument, and we'll look at that method in a moment. And then down here at line 20, we print out what the values of the modified array are, first with a header, and then using an enhanced for statement, once again to iterate through every value in the array called array and display those values. Now, I'm going to first run this program so we can look at that part of the output, then we'll take a look at the ModifyArray method. So initially, we show you here that the original values of the array are 1 through 5, and you can see that when we went and output the values in the array again, their values were modified and that they're now 2 through 10, skipping the odd numbers along the way. So let's go back up to our main program here. Let me just shorten this window. And you can see that we called ModifyArray and we gave it the name of the array that we wanted to modify. And the name of the array variable is actually contains a reference to the real array object in memory. So in effect, what we're doing is we're passing down to our ModifyArray method the address of the array object in memory, and we're receiving it and calling it array2 here. And the declaration of the parameter must match up with the type of the argument, so it's a one-dimensional array of integers. And then inside the body of this loop, we have a little iterative for loop that counts from 0 up to but not including the length of whatever array we received. And for every element of the array, I'm using the times equals operator to modify its value by multiplying it by 2 and storing the result back in that element of the array. So when you receive an array into a method, you are receiving it in such a way that you can modify its elements, as we were clearly able to show you in the output here. Now separately, when you're dealing with individual elements within an array, individual elements, if they are primitive type values, are passed by value, so a copy of the value is made. So let's take a look at the next part of the main program. We're going to print out the effects of passing an array element value, array sub 3 before modify element, and we're going to show you the value of array sub 3. So if I go down to my output down here, you can see that initially array sub 3 has the value 8. Then we invoke modify element with array sub 3 as an argument, and you can see that in the body of modify element we're going to change the value to 16. And then we're going to come back to main, and at lines 31 and 32 we're going to show you the value of array sub 3, and you can see down here in the last line of the output that the value is indeed still 8. So clearly when we passed array sub 3 as an argument to this modify element method, which we're going to look at the body in a moment, clearly a copy of that element was passed, and when I go to modify element, you can see here that there's nothing indicating that we're dealing with an array in any way. It's just getting a value of type int, and it's trying to modify that value locally. We printed it locally to show you that the local value was indeed modified, but when we get back up here, the original element array sub 3 has not been changed. Now, to throw a bit of a hammer into the works, if I have an array not of primitive values, but an array of references, and I pass one array element into a method, because you're passing a reference to an object, that method is allowed to do whatever the object allows through its set of public methods. So if the public methods of a particular object allow modification of that object, then the called method would indeed be able to invoke those methods on the object and modify the object, but the actual element of the array itself is not going to be changed, meaning that I wouldn't be able to modify the reference variable in the array to point to a different object. It will always point to the same object, but the calling method, or the called method, excuse me, would be able to modify the object at that location in the array.
Looking to advance your career by acquiring new skills? Tired of expensive off-site training programs? Wish you could learn from the best instructors in the industry? Look no further than live lessons. Self-paced, personal video instruction by the world's leading technology publishers. Each live lesson comes with a DVD featuring 3 to 4 hours of instructor-led classroom training, sample program code that allows you to work along with your personal instructor, and an example-rich study guide. Live lessons allow you to watch the entire course from start to finish, or navigate directly to any of the individual lessons. You'll literally watch over the shoulder of your instructor as he shows you how to build state-of-the-art applications. Live lessons, the power of the world's leading technology experts at your fingertips. To learn more, visit mylivelessons.com today.